So let's talk about this Suns and Spurs game. This Suns and Spurs game was crazy as in the end we saw the Spurs win this game in a close battle, which went back and forth for a lot of the game. In this game, we had the first game of Devin Booker back in the lineup after he had suffered a minor injury or something was bugging him with his body, but now we can see him back in the court, and he was a star player for the Suns, dropping 31 points on 5 for 7 shooting and 10 of 19 from the field. He had 9 rebounds and 13 assists, meanwhile almost getting, a triple double with only 5 turnovers, and he had also 1 offensive rebound. With that being said, they still lost, even though also Kevin Durant had a great game with 28 points, 6 rebounds, 10 of 15 from the field, and 3 out of 5 from 3. 1 assist and 2 blocks, too. So what we can see is that both of these guys had great games. The rest of the starting lineup really didn't, except maybe Grayson Allen, which had a very efficient 16 points. But apart from that, it was really the bench who was left to carry this team. The big stars put up the big numbers, but you had to rely on guys down the stretch like Drew Eubanks, which played great, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 5 of 9 from the field. Keita Bates-Diop, which hit a huge 3 and seemed like he was making every layup, 5 for 7 from the field, 13 points, 2 rebounds. And also you had some guys like Eric Gordon hit some big threes, as he had 7 points efficiently. So what we saw from the Suns was just a pretty even distribution. It didn't push themselves too hard, and I believe that if it would have not been for Josh Okogie, I don't know if he suffered an injury, but I know that he only played 12 minutes and missed all of his shots. And Yusuf Nurkic, which only played 19 minutes and was inefficient in those, they probably would have won. They don't have Bradley Beal, which is also out due to injury, if I'm not mistaken. And honestly, when we look at this lineup, like the fact that they put up this many points and when they had to rely on most of the guys shows just the pure star power in the Suns. The Suns have 2 guys which can really light it up from behind the arc, from inside the arc, from the paint, from anywhere that you want to put them. And Devin Booker in this game was special. Devin Booker really had himself a game. Like, if you saw him and if you've been seeing how he's been playing, you know that Devin Booker's no joke now. He really wants a superstar status, and he's done waiting for people to just give it to him. He wants to prove to people that he can do it. He did it in the playoffs last year. He did it this season, at the start of the season, and he's been doing it now for about a year and a half, or at least the last season and this season, where when you see him, Devin Booker's really getting buckets, is really playing well. And the Suns, another thing that I wanted to point out, is that to have no point guard, they had 26 assists, right? Like, this team, I know that Devin Booker was half of those, which is crazy. But this team, in my opinion, is still sharing the ball really well. Obviously, most of their possessions come from isolations, and you can't lie about that because the Spurs, on the other hand, had 37 assists, right, with Trey Jones having 10 assists and 12 points off the bench. But like the Suns, a team which is ISO heavy, scoring heavy, a lot of, people who don't really pass the ball and more get their own shot, have been really sharing the ball well and have been really making easy looks for other people. I like their swing passes. And if you see their stats, 26 assists, it doesn't really reflect how much they actually pass it. Because the assist is only 1 assist from one person to the other. But they pass it around so many times, and their ball movement has been so insane that it really lets their three-point shooters have open shots, or their, slashers to be able to have clear lanes because of how many lanes and positions are open due to the fact that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker have so much gravity. These 2 players, and then Bradley Beal, when he comes on the floor, create such a gravity for them. And this is why people say that basketball has changed, because it looks different now, looks more spread out. But that's only because the three-point line is so effective these days. that basketball looks like, oh, they could have not handled the 90s, but you put Devin Booker and Steph Curry in the 90s, and it's going to be hard. You're going to see three defenders on them at the 3-point line, you know? But anyway, then we have the Spurs, the winning team. You know, originally what happened was the Spurs started off the first quarter with like 15 points, and the Suns had only scored 2. Thank God it's the Suns. They score very well, and apart from that, they kept going and they kept fighting. But the Spurs were leading by a lot. When that third quarter came, the Suns took a lead. They scored 34 points that quarter, and then in the last one, even though the Suns outscored them, it was the way that they outscored them which mattered a lot. You know, the Spurs were only outscored by 3 points in that final quarter, but the Suns actually took an early lead. You know, they tied the game up, but then they spent almost the entire fourth quarter, you know, tying the game up. And then when they did, they completely lost it. They couldn't find many successful possessions, and the Spurs just went like 5 for 5 from the field. Wembanyama was doing everything, and then in the end, they ended up winning, which was amazing to see, if I'm being honest. Zach Collins played amazingly. He barely missed. He hit all of his threes. He hit 70% from the field, you know. Jeremy Sohan also very effective, and he had 9 assists this game and 5 rebounds. And when your wing can work like that point guard-esque, pass it around, make open looks, and really handle the ball, then that's a good sign. Keldon Johnson had a bad game, but he had 6 assists and 7 rebounds, doing something to contribute. The real player that we have to talk about, apart from Devin Vassell, which played great, by the way. You know, Zach Collins was great, but Devin Vassell is the secondary star. 3 of 3 from 3, 70% from the field. He had that Zach Collins, he just didn't have any free throws. But the player, the main guy on this team, you know, that's why I mentioned Vassell, because Vassell is number 2. The main guy on this team, Victor Wembanyama, had 38 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and 1 steal. He was amazing. If you saw the game, it looked like there was a pass which he couldn't catch. It looks like there wasn't a shot that he couldn't make. And he shot 50% from 3. He missed 1 free throw out of 6. And he had 15 for 28 from the field. Amazing. He put on a masterclass yesterday. And if we're being honest, this is exactly what we expect from Victor. You know, with how the NBA is played today, guys who are skinny like Victor can shine, because even though Victor's skinny, he's strong. And he plays his position because he can shoot threes. He has, you know, a bag and an actual dribble package, and he can spin and get through defenses effectively. And he doesn't have to worry about like getting shoved, pushed, or kicked, because since there's so many defenders outside of the paint and the 3-point line, it becomes very easy for him to affect the paint. Apart from all this, Victor's very fast, and he has great hands. You know, he catches everything. Of course, they're really big, but like he has really big hands when it comes to the basketball, right? Like he has such good grip and such good positioning that it's almost easy to just throw him lobs, you know, get on his nerve and make it hard for him to score. Is probably very difficult for a defender because of how much size he actually has. Apart from that, he was grabbing rebounds, and he had played just an amazing game, you know. And out there, when I saw Kevin Durant and Victor, you know, battling, I just thought, this is the future, you know. Like, Victor's amazing. Kevin Durant is obviously the prototype of a guy like Victor, and that guy which is inspired of. But when we see this new generation and we see guys like Victor, we just have to wonder, like, yo, what are they going to be when they're older? You know, like Victor right now, he's a prospect, he's young, he has nothing to prove to anybody but himself, because even though he's the first overall pick, we can't act like this guy is just gonna be great, because he hasn't proven anything. But apart from all this, you know, we have to say that this was a great game, and that even though, yes, I will say that there is a discrepancy with the Suns' wins and the amount of time that their stars have missed, I also do want to say shout out to the Spurs because they got it done, and we cannot take away from what they did because they beat a team which is considered way better than them, if we're being honest. Well, I'll see you next video, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Peace out.